أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي اللهم أخرجنا من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمنا بنور الفهم وافتح علينا بمعرفة العلم وسهل أخلاقنا بالحلم واجعلنا ممن يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه اللهم اجعل أعمالنا خالصة لوجهك ولا تجعل فيها حظا لغيرك صل اللهم على سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين الحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
How's it going today?
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
Hope you well, Maulana.
Oh, good, alhamdulillah. Is my sound clear?
Okay, excellent. Okay, so I don't know where it's coming from, but there's some other noise. Next to it, and no L plus.
You can hear another lecture, Maulana.
Okay, and now?
We're hearing Maulana Khalil.
Okay, I think it should be right now.
All good, Maulana.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everyone. I hope you're all well. Sorry for the delayed start. I just had a couple of things, mishaps to deal with quickly. Yeah, so we were busy with our sarf. We were learning the mazid fee scales. Before we got into mazid fee, we looked at the sarf saghir, which is what we termed for ourselves going across the scale, as opposed to going down. Now, or thereafter, we started with al-mazidu fihi in sarf, and we said al-mazid fi refers to when we have taken a trilateral verb or a verb comprised only of 3 root letters, like fa'ala, and we've added, or we've increased it somewhat. We've added an additional letter, right? An additional letter or letters. In the first scale that we did, which is in fact scale number 2, the scale fa'ala yufa'ilu taf'ilan. We simply added a shadda, which is that we doubled up on the second root letter. We doubled up on the second root letter. Right? And then we had some homework pertaining to that. So what we're going to do is we'll just look through that quickly. And then we will move on to the next scale, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. What you had to do for homework was actually go through these verbs from the Quran. They're all second bab verbs from the Quran, and you were to identify the bab, but we know they were all on the second bab. Tell me which component of that second bab they were. Was it the past tense verb? Was it the present tense verb? Was it the masdar? Was it the command? Was it the nahi, or the prohibition? And then give me the translation of that phrase or passage or whatever it was. Okay, but before we do that, let's just say a couple of verbs on the second scale. Fa'ala. Right, let's do it together. We'll say the fa'ala scale twice, and then we'll pick 2 other verbs and say these scales twice. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So you can say it with me. Bismillah. Fa'ala yufa'ilu taf'ilan mufa'ilun mufa'alun fa'il la tufa'il. Again. Fa'ala yufa'ilu taf'ilan mufa'ilun mufa'alun fa'il la tufa'il. I think we should do that one more time. Fa'ala yufa'ilu taf'ilan mufa'ilun mufa'alun fa'il la tufa'il. Okay. Now let's take another verb. I'm just going to pick randomly. Saddaqa. Saddaqa. And this is one of the verbs that we had for homework last week, right? Saddaqa means what? Saddaqa means to ratify, to believe, to deem true. All of those are meanings of the verb saddaqa. Right. Let's say that scale. Saddaqa, yusaddiqu, tasdiqan, musaddiqun, musaddaqun, saddiq, la tusaddiq. Again, صدق يصدق تصديقا مصدق مصدق صدق لا تصدق. Another verb, um, let's take سبح, or let's take بين. بين. Everybody, بين يبين تبيينا مبين مبين بين لا تبين. Again, بين يبين تبيينا مبين مبين بين لا تبين. That means to clarify. We now move on to the homework worksheet that we had, and we'll go through this quickly. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Tell me, are there any questions before we embark on this?
Well, can I just clarify something, please?
No?
I just want to double check. Maybe I wasn't paying attention in class, but we haven't learned to go down the scales, correct?
We didn't do that.
Okay,
We'll do it
okay,
today.
Shukran. Because
We just went across.
the words that we have in this worksheet that we're looking at now, I mean, obviously, because they're from the Quran, they're all as we go down that scale. So I just wanted to verify that I wasn't just dozing off in class. Okay, Shukran.
That we didn't do it in a class, but I thought when we get to this worksheet, you'll figure it out and ask me. So the very first word we have here is yuzabbihuna. So in terms of processing this, if you want to know, if before you are so accustomed with these scales that you just know where they are, where they fall, right? In which scale number, and then under which type of word in that scale, and then where in going down that scale the word falls. If you're not yet accustomed to that, an easy way of identifying a verb will be any word like we have here. يذبحون أبناءكم. يذبحون أبناءكم. Right? We have the word يذبحون. Now, how do I process that word يذبحون? The first thing is I need to identify which column I'm working with in the scale. Which column is this? Past tense, present tense, masdar, amr, nahi. I identify that. And once I identify that, then I can go down the scale to the exact verb that I have in front of me. So for example, here I have the word يُذَبِّحُونَ. So if I were to try and identify this word in the scale, I would go ذَبَّحَ يُذَبِّحُ يُذَبِّحُ. Right, okay. Now I identify that this word يُذَبِّحُونَ, the first word in its column would be يُذَبِّحُ. And then I go down. يُذَبِّحُ يُذَبِّحُونَ. يُذَبِّحُ يُذَبِّحُونَ. And that's how I would know it means. It's the present tense and it's the plural. So let's just go through it quickly. يُذَبِّحُونَ أَبْنَاءَكُمْ. Which verb is the word يُذَبِّحُونَ on?
The second verb.
The second
Second verb. All of them is on the second verb. So maybe I might just omit that question. Next thing. What type of word is it? The نوع. نوع الكلمة.
It's a mudari.
It's مضارع, which just مضارع. معلوم. Let me see how we have it on a scale. Okay, we just have it الفعل المضارع. So it's الفعل المضارع, correct. And what does it mean?
They massacred. Three, you know.
Yeah, you could say
They
to
are
massacre, to
slaughtering.
slaughter. Right? So if I were to just translate it literally, I know if you take it back to the Quranic context, then you're going to translate it a certain way. But if you just look at the words we have in front of us, the verb is ذبح يذبح. يذبحون will mean what? They
They are
many.
slaughtering.
They
Right?
slaughter. Yeah.
So they
are
are slaughtering. And who are they slaughtering? Who is the مفعول? مفعول به. They are slaughtering
Your son.
Children. Your
your
children.
sons, your children.
Our children.
Literally, your sons. I mean, because in context, this comes from the story of Fir'aun. يذبحون أبناءكم ويستحيون نساءكم وفي ذلكم بلاء من ربكم عظيم. But أبناء is the plural of ibnun. Because it's plural, it can include females, but here it's referring to males, your male children, right? يذبحون أبناءكم. They are slaughtering your male children. The bab, it's on the second bab. The نوع, it is مضارع, الفعل المضارع. And the translation, they are slaughtering your sons. Let's look at the next one. وظللنا عليكم الغمام. وظللنا عليكم الغمام. Which, what's the verb that we have here? How would we say the scale going across?
ذلل يذلل.
Right. ظلل يظلل تظليلا مظلل مظلل ظلل لا تظلل. If we just look at the word we have in front of us here, ظللنا, we would say it like this. ظلل ظللوا ظللت ظللنا ظللت ظللتم ظللت ظللتن ظللت ظللنا. And that's how we get to this exact word. So we identified, it's on the second verb. We identify that it is al-fi'l al-madi, the past tense verb. So, i.e., that's the first column when we go across the scale. And then I identify exactly where this word is by going down the scale. So ظللنا is the very last word going down that scale. And what does it mean?
We shaded.
Shaded.
Right, to give shade or to cause shade. Right? So وظللنا, we shaded عليكم, over you. With what? Al-ghamama, the clouds. So we caused the clouds to give shade over you. We caused the clouds to create shade over you. You follow me? Remember the second bab, it has that connotation of causality. So it doesn't mean you have to be shaded, it means to cause something to shade upon something else. Okay, let's look at the next one. هو محرم عليكم. هو محرم عليكم. Tell me, that word محرم, which bab is it on?
Second bab, Maulana.
It comes from the second bab, right? نوع الكلمة, what type of word is it? Let's go across the scale and see. حرم يحرم تحريما محرم محرم حرم لا تحرم. So we have this word exactly in our scale, isn't it? محرم. What kind of word is it?
مفعول مولانا.
مفعول.
Right. اسم المفعول. اسم المفعول. The passive particle. The passive particle, or the done upon. Let me just see exactly what we called it now again. The name of the done upon, the ismul maf'ul. And what does the word harrama mean?
Forbid.
To forbid something, to make something prohibited. To make something prohibited. So muharramun will be something that is made prohibited. Something that is made prohibited. But remember, this is an ism. So let's translate the sentence. Mubtada first. He, and then the khabar is muharramun. So he is muharramun. He is made prohibited. Alaykum for you. He is made prohibited for you. This comes in the Quran. وَهُوَ مُحَرَّمٌ عَلَيْكُمْ إِخْرَاجُهُم. But we're not looking at it in that context. We're just looking at this sentence in front of us. هُوَ مُحَرَّمٌ عَلَيْكُمْ. He is made prohibited for you. Or it is made prohibited for you. Okay. Another one. Number 4. We just look at maybe 10 of them. Let's see how far we get. فريقا كذبتم. فريقا كذبتم. The verb we have is كذبتم. كذبتم. Verb, we know it's in the second verb. Now, what type of word is it? ماضي, is it الفعل الماضي, الفعل المضارع, المصدر, اسم المفعول, أو sorry, اسم الفاعل, اسم المفعول, أمر, نهي, which one?
فعل ماضي مولانا.
الفعل الماضي, correct. That's it. And then once we identify that, we can now go down the scale, right? So how would the first word sound? We just need the root letters to tell us that. فعل, the root letters are kaf, dal, ba, so it will be كذب. And then you can go down the scale. كذب, كذبوا, كذبت, كذبنا, كذبت, كذبتم. And that's the one we have over here, right? كذبتم. What does it mean? To belie or to deny. To belie or to deny. And this is a construct we may not have come across before really much. Here we actually have the maf'ul before the verb. فريقا كذبتم. A party you denied. In other words, it says you denied or you belied a party. But maf'ul is muqaddam here. But we're not focusing on that, right? That's, you'll get to that in Nahu. Maf'ulun muqaddam. The maf'ul is before the verb. Usually you have the verb and then you have the fa'il and then you have the maf'ul bihi, right? This is just somewhat different construct. But it shouldn't be a train smash. Even if you just saw the words, you would have been able to understand it. Maybe you didn't discuss its rhetorical benefit yet, but you should be able to understand it. Fariqan kadhabatum. A party you denied or belied. At any point, if you have any questions in relation to the translation or anything, just stop me, please. Right? Next one. Number 5. يفرقون به بين المرء وزوجه. يفرقون به بين المرء وزوجه. What word do we have over here? Or rather, if I were to ask a question, what are the root letters of the word we have over here? What would you respond?
فرق. فرق.
Brilliant. Fa, ra, qaf. And when you say it on the second bab, how would it sound? فرق.
فرق.
فرق يفرق. And what does it mean?
Separate.
They separated.
Separating.
Right. Farraqa means to cause a separation. To cause a separation. I don't want to just use the word separated because two people can separate by themselves. Farraqa means that there is an external force that causes a separation between two things. And the reason I'm also saying it like that is because you can see, remember we discussed the connotations of the verbs, and one of the most salient ones for the second verb was causation. Right? So farraqa, to cause a separation between two things. And we'll see that in the meaning of the sentence here. Firstly, tell me, which bab is it? Bab number 2. Naw'ul kalima. What type of word do we have over here?
فعل مضارع.
الفعل المضارع. That's correct. The present tense. If we were to go across, it would be فرق يفرق. But now we have to go down after that. يفرق يفرقون. So what does it mean? They are causing a separation. Feehi, with it. This is actually, the verse refers to black magic. So they are causing a separation with it, meaning black magic. بين المرء وزوجه. بين, between المرء, a man or the man, وزوجه, and his
Wife.
wife. Right? يفرقون به بين المرء وزوجه. They are causing a separation with it between the man and his wife.
Question is,
The question, Bismillah?
Last week you showed us that table that says there's 4 qualities for the scale.
Right.
So then I looked in the dictionary for this word under the root letters, and then you must just look for Roman numeral 2, correct?
Correct.
And then it just says to separate. So I'm not sure how to identify whether it's causation or whether it's intensification, whether there's a new meaning or what. Because it just said to separate, so I didn't actually put the word cause in the translation.
Okay. So you don't have to have the word cause in the meaning. I'm using the word cause. I'm using the word cause just so that you can understand that it doesn't mean that they separate by themselves. That would be perfectly fine if I dropped the word cause. So يفرقون به بين المرء وزوجه. They separate with it between husband and his wife. That would be perfectly fine.
And then how would we know if it's intensification? Will it explicitly say in the dictionary under Roman numeral 2 that it's an intensified form of the word?
No, it won't necessarily. How you do that is you just look at the first form and then see if it conveys the same meaning just to a greater degree of emphasis. Like you'd find under qatala. Qatala, to kill, qatala, to massacre. It essentially has the same meaning, just done more intensely. So it would be done by yeah, but just comparing the two. The reason I insisted on using the word cause, that actually none of the meanings in the dictionary use the word cause, because I just wanted to highlight for you that connotation of causality, of causation rather, in the second verb. But you don't have to have it in translation, certainly not. I just wanted you to be able to differentiate between two things separating on their own, which would maybe be something like iftaraqa, as opposed to a separation being created by something between two other things. Right?
Then I'm just a bit confused about who is the doer then when you use that causation. Is it an external doer that is causing the separation, or is it that they, the una?
The una, it's the una.
Okay.
The una is causing. So yufarriquna, they are causing. Who's in terms of the context, they have to be mentioned before, right? We don't use pronouns unless we have a do mention before. So in the context of the Quran, you will see here that this is referring to people that do black magic, etc. But here in our sentence in front of us, it would just be they are causing a separation, or they are separating fihi, with it, bain al-mar'i wa zawji, between the man and his wife.
One
Right?
gets confused and saying they are being told to separate, sort of, so like another, I think like a passive duo. That's what my conclusion.
No.
I see it's the una, yes.
It's the every other aspect of ourselves that we had applies to this exactly. The same way we find the fa'il for the first scale, we find the fa'il the same way for this one. And there is a passive form of this verb as well. And I will in due time teach you those passive forms, but not now. Right, okay. So we went through 5 of them. Let's leave it at that for now. I want to look at the next scale. You should be able to see the scale on your screens.
Molana, sorry, Maf. One question. Are you going to give us the answers or so that we can mark it ourselves?
Yes, inshallah, we can do that.
Okay, Jazakallah.
Yeah. Right, let's look at the next scale. Going across the next scale, we have the form fa'ala. Fa'ala. Now remember, this is al-mazidu fihi. What's the extra letter that we've added here?
Alif, Maulana.
Alif.
So you identify this by an alif added after the first root letter. In the previous scale number 2, we just doubled the second root letter. Right? We put a shad on it. In bab number 3, we added an alif before it. Fa'ala. Now try and say the scale for me. You have it in front of you. You can say it with me. Fa'ala yufa'ilu. The masdar is tricky over here because there's 2 options for the masdar. So let's look at it. The first one is fi'alan. Fi'alan. And the second option is mufa'alatan. So both of them are different forms of the masdar of this bab. Fi'alan and mufa'alatan. And then the ismul fa'il is mufa'ilun. There's a mistake on this scale here. It should be mufa'alun. It's mufa'ilun for the ismul fa'il and mufa'alun for the ismul maf'ul. And then the amr is fa'il and the nahi is la tufa'il. Okay. Now I want you to say that with me a couple of times. Fa'ala yufa'ilu fi'alan mufa'alatan mufa'ilun mufa'alun fa'il la tufa'il. Again. فاعل يفاعل فعالا مفاعلة مفاعل مفاعل فاعل لا تفاعل. One more time. فاعل يفاعل فعالا مفاعلة مفاعل مفاعل فاعل لا تفاعل. Right. So what I want you to do is practice that scale. If you listen to it, it's not very different to the, it doesn't sound very different to the second verb. The second verb was fa'ala, here we have fa'ala. The second word was yufa'ilu, here we have yufa'ilu. Okay, the masters are very different. That one was taf'ilan, here we have fi'alan and mufa'alatan. But then if you look at the ismul fa'il, there was mufa'ilun, yet mufa'ilun. That was the ismul maf'ul was mufa'alun, yet mufa'alun. The amr was fa'il, yet fa'il. There the nahi was la tufa'il, yet la tufa'il. Very similar. You must just be able to identify that there is a shadda over there, here there's an extra alif. Right? Let's just say it one more time. فَعَلَ يُفَاعِلُ فِعَالًا مُفَاعَلَةً مُفَاعِلٌ مُفَاعَلٌ فَاعِل لا تفاعل. Now what I want you to do is, for homework, just complete this page. Al-Mazid Feehi, form 3. Right? So you fill in Jahada, Qatala, Hafada, Hajara, and Nafaqa. Just fill in those verbs for me, bismillah ta'ala. Going across the scales. Right? Are there any questions before we end? No? Okay, then let's end there for now. Jazakumullah khairan. Bismillah.
Okay, Barla.
One.
Sorry, can I ask a question?
Sure, bismillah.
What's the difference between fa'ala and fa'ala
Okay. The
in
difference,
terms of meaning?
yeah, the difference is that I gave you the usages of the second verb, right? It's usually used for causation, intensification, or it has the same meaning as the first verb, or it has a completely new meaning. The third verb is usually used for mutuality, when an action requires two parties engaging in the same action. For example, okay, here's the one example that I have. قاتل. قتل on the first verb means to kill. قاتل means to fight. Or in other words, it means that there's two, it's not one person going to another person just killing them. It's two people at each other's throats. So the third verb is used when there's a mutual action taking place. Like also laqa, two people meet each other. And we'll look at more examples. We'll look at more examples next week, inshallah. And another meaning, thing is also that sometimes the word on this scale also has a new meaning. Like you will see in the case of the word jahada. But we'll discuss that the differences in meaning next week, bismillah ta'ala. For now, I just want you to revise the actual saying of the scale and then complete these other words: jahada, qatala, hafada, hajara, and nafaqa. Right? We're in there for now. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bismillah. Question?
The masdar, will all the words have the two forms?
Theoretically, you can form them, but they won't always be used. All right? Okay, assalamu alaikum. Well, Yazid, I'm making you the host.